Hello, Geekscapists. This is a pre-recorded segment, I'll say that up front, for the December 6th charity live stream. But you should be hitting up geekscapegives.com and making some donations to the Big Brothers, Big Sisters, because that's what we're all about here, is spreading love and spreading charity. We decided to bring some of the great minds of our horror community here at Geekscape together to do the definitive rankings of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies. I'm going to introduce my two friends who are here as well as myself. And here's what I'll ask of you: introduce yourself, mention the show that you are a part of, and say how many of these movies you had seen prior to us doing this ranking. So I am Matt Kelly, Horror Movie Night, and I've seen all 6 of these before we did this.
Oh, you sick son of a bitch. Hi, I'm Kyle Kuchta. I am a co-host on Horror Movie Night, and I had seen 3 of these previously.
My name is Jackie from the Ghouls podcast, and prior to this, I had seen the first 2 movies.
All right, so this is going to be fun.
Right.
So the way that this worked, even though there's only 3 of us here, we brought in every horror podcast host. So
we
Scott,
heard from thousands.
We heard from almost 10 people on their opinions.
Tens of our friends.
Yeah, so listen, go check out Fright School, go check out Jersey Ghouls, go check out the Monster Rally podcast, go check out Horror Movie Night. And I really should have reached out to our friends in Camp Nightmare, not technically part of the network, but part of the network in our hearts. And they probably would have had interesting takes. But I asked each host to send me their official rankings of these 6 movies, the 5 original films and the remake from 2012. And then there was just a simple point system. Whatever they put at number 1 got 6 points. Whatever they put at number 6 got 1 point. And then I let math do the rest. And
Math
this
Kelly
is
did the rest.
Math Kelly here once again.
Well, here, listen, I'm sorry.
Oh, you brought a drink for the night.
I did. Per what I do on Horror Movie Night, I did bring an accompanying beer for this late night session or December session that we're going to have. And it is Santa Claus from Fat Orange Cat. It is a cinnamon bun imperial stout. So it is currently like 60 degrees in Connecticut. So this is not like the vibe necessarily, but it is the vibe for our discussion today. So cheers. Happy day.
Number 6, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 3. Better watch out. Following the events of Part 2, Ricky is left in a coma for 6 years. One Christmas, however, he awakens to stalk a blind teenager with psychic powers. Also, his brain is exposed in a jar on his head.
His brain was surgically reconstructed.
Yeah. Well, Jackie, I mean, I'm actually really curious about your initial take, because you said you've watched the first 2, which is 1.5 movies, really. And then, so did you have any expectation going in? Did you know anything about 3?
No, okay. I knew absolutely not. No, that's not true. I knew that at some point we were going to move away from like the brothers characters of the first 2 movies. But that's about it.
Yeah.
Like I legitimately knew nothing about anything past the second movie. And
so how prepared were you for Bill Moseley with his brain in a jar on top of his head?
There were so many things that I was not prepared for in any of these movies. But yeah, I didn't expect to see Bill Moseley's name to pop up. I didn't expect to see his exposed brain the entire movie. You know what? For me, that one ranked a little bit higher. I think just because I liked that we still had the through line of the original movie.
I think that's fair. This one's definitely my bottom. And this was, I think, Kyle's bottom as well. It may have even been Scott's. I think the Horror Movie Night crew really brought this one down.
Yeah.
And I think the reason is, when I say out loud, oh, the main villain in this movie is a telekinetic Bill Moseley with his brain exposed, this movie should be way more fun than it is. But it is like, it is a chore to sit through this
Well, I mean,
movie.
and like, you're right. There's so many things happening that are like, thematic things that would be fun. I love that we go to Nana's house and like our lead girl is blind but telekinetic, and like she's not sure. Like it's like it's a weird. It's a movie that should be about vibe checks, and all the checks of the vibes are incorrect, and it's just like, then what are we doing? You've been studying this exposed brain Bill Moseley for how many years, and you were like, this is it, and everything goes wrong. It's like, you got to really make sure that everything's going to be okay before you just continue to unethically study this man's brain that you've encased in glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also I just feel like there's nothing that like sticks in my memory about this. There's no like memorable kills.
We do have 2 Twin Peaks characters. It's one of those like really lovely early 90s things where you see movies with 2 characters from Twin Peaks that are not playing their characters from Twin Peaks, which is always fun.
Love that. Love that. And if you're worried that the trio that is Horror Movie Night really called all the shots on this list, the very next movie, I believe all 3 of us wanted to see a lot higher than it ended up.
Number 5, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 4, Initiation. In the first of 2 films that break away from the killer Santa Claus concept, we follow a local LA newspaper reporter who becomes entangled with a coven of Lilith-worshipping witches who are preparing for a Christmas Eve ritual.
All right, that's okay. That's okay. I understand.
I mean, this one you get Christmas in California, which is to say it is the least Christmas of any of these movies.
It's barely Christmas.
It's easy to forget that this is even in the Silent Night, Deadly Night franchise. And as Jackie had said in advance, this is where we step away from the brothers. And this gets wild. We're just talking about witches. People give birth to maggots. Like, this movie is crazy.
This was, I think, the most non-consensual of all the movies.
Yeah, probably. I think that's a kind way to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to get too graphic on this charity stream, so we'll just say that it is the least consensual of all the movies. I think Matt and I had a previous conversation, and I think this was the one. Oh no, it wasn't this one.
There's another one. Don't you worry.
There's another
We'll
one.
get
No,
there.
but yeah, this one. And if anybody that knows me knows that, like, there's not a lot of things in horror movies that I scare me or that I don't like. But a prime example is the slug lady from Puppet Master. That grosses me out.
Yeah.
Things like bugs in and out of the mouth, like any sort of
And also, it's Leech Woman. Show respect.
Or, I'm sorry, yes, Leech Woman. My apologies.
Yeah, that's derogatory, dude. You can't just say slug lady.
Yeah. Oh, look at this lady spitting out slugs.
I don't mean to be specious. I do not mean you. You know that I'm an ally.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, this part 4 just was gross.
Rough.
On so many levels.
Again, like I said, Horror Movie Night had very little control over this. I will call him out. This was Scott's number 2. He loves this one.
Who hurt you, Scott?
Yeah,
And
I think that this is perfectly in the middle. And when you only have 6 films, number 5 is already basically the middle.
Yeah, no, it's true. And I think that it does lose points for being so un-Christmas. It just is like, and with so many, with almost all the other ones being specifically Christmas, it is hard that this one is just sort of like thrown in. Because again, I like all the themes. Like, I love sort of like a weird like coven, non-consensual coven maybe, which is a little odd, but was this written by a man? And then slugs and bugs and Clint Howard. There's a lot happening that again on paper is really nice, but in the grand scheme of Silent Night, Deadly Night, just Christmas stuff, it doesn't land. I had never seen it before, and I was actually kind of surprised. I was like waiting for something to jog my memory. I have this, I think it was Lionsgate maybe put out a 3 DVD set a long time ago with 3 through 5, and I don't know, I just assumed that I had seen them all. I don't know why 4 was, I'd seen 3 and 5. I don't know why 4 was missing there, but
I mean, this was where Brian Yezna starts to put his stamp. I mean, this feels like a Yezna movie, if nothing else. Every ounce of it is Brian Yezna, who both directed and came up with the initial story of the movie. So take that for what you will.
Number 4, Silent Night. This 2012 remake of the original film finds a man dressed as Santa Claus punishing the naughty folks of Cryer, Wisconsin.
We're back to Santa after a 2-film drive off into non-Santa related material.
Non-Santa land.
Yeah,
That's not in
non-Santa
New
land.
Hampshire.
I never know how I feel about this movie. Like I feel like part of me, it kind of gives me like a nick. And then
It's
like
got
there's
me.
another part of me that's like, it's pretty brutal. Like it's definitely of that, like we were pushing the boundaries of what a kill could be in a horror movie time period. And I just don't know if it's never the one I'm picking up if I'm gonna grab a Silent Night movie from my shelf to put it on.
No, it's it was I was surprised the first time watch on this too for me, and it's 2012, so but it also like is touching on like what feels like would be like what Platinum Dunes would be if they were like low, but like filmmakers are able to like make a thing look like a Platinum Dunes thing 10 years later, right? Like they're able to make it look gritty and dirty and just make vile characters and like all this shit and make it still kind of look like it has some money behind it, which this did, but it's kind of the scale of it is larger. I mean, we're in this town full of absolute assholes. Like
Yeah.
there is nobody likable in this town at all. Like it's pretty gnarly. And yeah, a lot of kills, very Christmas oriented, a lot of like uh Christmas puns, but also insults, and it was rough.
I mean, this one may have the
Donald Logue is fucking incredible.
I was gonna say this may have the most
Yeah.
stacked cast of any of the movies we discuss.
Yeah.
Like you said, Donald Logue, Malcolm McDowell, Jamie King,
Yeah.
Ellen Wong, who you may remember as Knives Chow from fucking Scott Pilgrim.
Scott Pilgrim.
It's a pretty stacked cast. Brought in a box office of $130,781 on its limited theatrical run.
Okay.
Which may be why we haven't had another Silent Night movie since 2012. Although, just a fair warning, it says here on the Wikipedia that late 2005 plans for an untitled Silent Night, Deadly Night film. So we may have to completely revamp these rankings next
Oh my
year.
gosh. Well, apparently the team behind Terrifier is going to do a Silent Night, Deadly Night too.
Oh, that must be it. Okay, well, you know what? Let's just say it's in number 7.
Yeah, yeah. Jackie, what? Again, I love that you'd only seen the first 2. I mean, I'm not much. It's not like I knew. Like,
yeah, you saw one
I
more than her. Calm down.
I know, but like, it's the starting point that makes me so excited. Like, I think that's the thing. It's just like 1 and 2, and then it's just like the world is yours. It's like,
yeah, because yours was what, like 1, 3, and 5 or some crazy
1
shit like that. Like,
yeah, and
Okay.
1, 3, and 5. So
you knew how
So-
weird it was going to get before
Yeah,
watching the other ones.
So
Yeah.
I was like, the remake was to me just like a mediocre early 2000s. Like that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It felt like the early aughts kind of horror, like kind of perfectly okay. I had it ranked pretty high just because it was on brand with
Yeah.
like Silent Night, Deadly Night. I think this was one of the only movies, not to harp on it, but this was one of the only ones that there was no need for consent because it never got to that point. And again, listeners of our show know that I always get inappropriately excited when you kill a kid in a movie because there's not a lot of movies that have the balls to do that.
Yes.
So I always appreciate a good kill. And this kid, like I agree with Santa. I would have done the
asking
same
for it.
thing.
You had to come in.
I
It was
would've done
early
the same
on
thing.
too. It was
Yeah.
like one of the first. It was kind of one of the first
Yeah.
kills. Was killing this kid, and you're
And
like,
it was
oh,
brutal.
it was
It
brutal.
really was. It was brutal.
We're in for some shit.
I guess a couple thoughts, right? Like you mentioned Platinum Dunes. I will give them credit that this to me feels closer to when Platinum, and this wasn't Platinum Dunes, but like it feels closer to when they did a Friday the 13th remake that by all intents and purposes basically just functions as a Friday the 13th sequel. They're not doing like the big recap from the start, unlike a lot of the other ones that they did, like a Texas Chainsaw or a Friday or a Nightmare on Elm Street, where they're like, let's just tell the first movie again. They didn't do that.
No.
This isn't like a carbon copy of the original Silent Night, Deadly Night.
there's a few nice nods, like to
Mhm.
1 and 2. Like
Yeah, like
I didn't
Yeah.
notice any 3 through 5, but that's
no,
okay.
but they have the homages, but it kind of falls into like, we talk about like if Halloween 3 was a success and there was just like new Halloween movies every year on different things. Like this
Yeah.
at least
Mhm.
felt like, sure, why can't we just have a franchise where every couple years a different Santa goes crazy? Like why
Mhm.
must it be a continuation of Two Brothers? Like, and I love that this was just like its own standalone Santa. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't like them trying
Mhm.
to recreate too much of the magic from the original movies.
I did like the lure that like Santa in the remake goes to different towns.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
like the idea that he would, it's not like he's terrorizing one town every year. He's on the move, and I
Yeah,
like
and
that.
clearly I like to imagine that he's, like, really picking up towns where everybody's an asshole, like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's on the naughty list, like, I feel like there was just a couple loose ends that didn't quite get tied up, but it was all in all, it was brutal, and I thought it was, like, I don't know, it is I mean, it's probably just as mean-spirited, if not a little bit more than the first, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's
I
not
mean, that's the
not
thing. We're
on
not
brand.
talking about it not being a mean-spirited movie.
Nah.
I think one of the biggest strikes against Silent Night, the remake, is at that time period. I think we already got a much more fun Killer Santa movie with Santa's Sleigh,
Yeah,
starring Bill Goldberg, where
true.
it's so goofy, it's so fun. So like to already have those highs and then go to something so deadly
Mhm.
serious
Yeah,
Yeah.
was
yeah,
if I'm looking at both of them on my DVD shelf at Christmas time, I'm going to pick up Santa's Sleigh every single time
yeah,
instead to watch.
yeah.
Because it's the holly jolly season. I
Have
want
we
to
done
laugh.
Santa's Sleigh on horror movie night?
We have not done that masterpiece yet.
Number 3, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2. After a recap of the first movie, which takes up half of the film's runtime, we follow Ricky, the brother of killer Santa Claus, Billy. The film is most famous for a single line delivery that went viral in the 2000s.
Garbage day!
This was one of the ones where I never know how to rank this movie
It's hard.
because what I don't like is the hour recap of the movie I literally just finished watching before I put it in.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
like the last like 15-20 minutes with Garbage Day and all of the other craziness, absolute delight, campy delight. If we're ranking this as the short film that is the last 15 minutes, like it's like one of the best ones ever, but like it's not an enjoyable watch. I do not watch this.
Mm-mm.
Like
No.
there are two Silent Night Deadly Night movies that I make it a goal to watch every single year. This is not one of those two.
Yeah.
Like, because I already watched it. I put on the first
You
one.
watch
Why
it.
do I need to watch it again?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like there's probably just there on YouTube, there's got to just be the non-used stuff that you could watch. You know what I mean? Like, and so I'm gonna be honest, I didn't watch it, and that was one of the ones that I hadn't watched, and I feel the same way where it's like I didn't want to watch it again, and like I just didn't. I don't know. I couldn't. I have it on VHS. I know it's accessible in other places, but I just I didn't want to jump around and try to like do the math and like figure it out. So I was just like, I feel like I've seen the clips that I needed to. I don't think it's going to do much more for me. That's not true. I guess I watched the setup. I watched the setup to the recap, and then I didn't watch anything beyond that. So I
Yeah.
did rank it lower. I can't also imagine it would land anywhere else on my personal ranking, but I do know that people love it. There is a I wouldn't call it charm, but some people might call it charm to it being a cash grab recap with some silliness at the end. But
Well, here's the story according to the filmmakers,
yeah,
right? On the DVD commentary, they said that they were paid a dismal amount of money to make the film. And originally were told that they were just going to re-edit the first movie and try to pass it off as a sequel or a re-release.
oh, so that was the assignment.
Yeah, but the director Lee Harry said that if they're gonna be hired for this, they're gonna shoot some type of new footage. So they had to utilize what little budget they were given for the re-edit to kind of shoot a new story. And that's
Jeez.
where we get this like framing device of the brother of the first Santa being interviewed, Ricky. being interviewed and recapping everything that happened in the first movie, including many moments that he was nowhere around for.
Yeah.
Um,
All
and
just
then
rumor. All just like very accurate rumor mill.
Yes.
Mhm.
And then at the end of all of this, he goes on a very quick killing spree that has some extremely iconic, quotable moments. Garbage Day, of course, being pretty high up there. And again, if we're just talking about box office, even with the measly budget of $250,000 to make a film, this one at the box office brought in $154,000. And
Whoa, okay. That's pretty crazy. Still only half its budget. So it's a flop. So it's a flop. Okay.
it's
Yeah.
still a flop, even with I could probably pull together $250,000 to make a movie. Like,
That's gnarly. I did not
it's
know that.
it's pretty wild.
Do you remember this has to be 2014, 2015 when everybody on the internet, this was horror film true crime sleuth. Like this was like a horror film sleuth situation where they were trying to track down Eric Freeman, the guy who
Yes.
played fucking
The-
Garbage Day, and they finally found him.
That
Like,
was the other fucking thing that I saw on this article was that the information I'm talking about was on the first DVD release.
Yeah.
And it was in 2018 when Shout Factory finally found Eric Freeman to get him on mic to talk about this movie.
It was crazy. I remember because I think it was the theatrical re-release of the first film had started getting momentum, and there was a huge press junket for it, and like everything was happening. And I think that like there was this big, I don't know, there was a few podcasts, there was, at least in the world that I was listening to, there was a few of these podcasts and a few like articles, I think like Bloody Disgusting and or Dread Central were running stuff, just being like, where is he? Like if he could just like get to a convention, people would flip their garbage lid. And they did. And I think he still does a handful. I don't think he doesn't do like full, horror circuit, but there was a time where he had finally was like, okay, I'll go out and do the thing. And then, you know how that all works. We've been to conventions. It doesn't last.
No, it never does.
Though I think he would probably slap at a creature feature. I think he would be great.
Yeah. But how about you, Jackie? You've been kind of quiet as we discussed this film. What are your thoughts on Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 2, the other film in the franchise you had seen prior to this?
The other film. Yeah. So it had been a while since I seen it because I think it was college, maybe the first time I saw it. Outside of, the obvious, again, the clips, everybody knows the Garbage Day thing. But for me, and now maybe this is me and just my simple mind, but like I do remember the first time that I watched it, and I had forgotten enough about it that when I rewatched it for this, it got me again.
Mhm.
But like I never expected him. No, I shouldn't say I never expected him, but like I never expected to see the cop that's interviewing him or the psychiatrist that's interviewing him to be dead. That's one of my favorite scenes.
Yeah.
When suddenly we pan to him and like he turns the thing off and he's dead. And I'm always like, oh,
Yeah.
like that one always gets me. I don't know why. I just always love
that's
that
a good
moment.
twist. That is a very, very good
love
twist.
that moment. And I think because I do enjoy the campy, the slashery, like the nonsensical silliness. This almost kind of had an air of Dead Alive to me. Like clearly not as well done.
Okay.
It's nothing near that. But like
I'm
it
gonna
had
follow
that
this a
air
little
of
bit.
like
All right.
if I want to, if I'm gonna kind of compare it to something, it almost felt like it was trying to reach for those kind of stars. Which was enough for me that like that's why I enjoyed this. That's why I had it ranked pretty high for me, because again, I'm always, it was a nice little, it made sense as far as a sequel goes, where it's like, yeah, your older brother did all this crazy stuff, you witnessed all this stuff, and then yeah, it's gonna tweak your brain a little bit, and you're gonna end up in the situation that you're in, and maybe there is some weird feral thing that happened to you when you were a baby because you were in the car when your parents had that whole thing happen. So I don't know. This one kind of tickles my funny bone.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I'm always like, oh, it's Christmas, gotta watch part 2. But in a situation where a friend will ask me to watch it, I'll be like, yeah, I'll absolutely sit down and watch it.
I might revisit it post this conversation for Christmas season. But I think that brings up a good point.
It probably works better watching it by itself and not fresh off the heels of watching the first
Well,
movie.
it takes all the I would say what you need for a regular movie. It takes all that shit out and then adds other stuff at the end. So it's like the pace of it. What you're saying about Dead Alive, I don't disagree with it. Like there's like kind of a frantic pace, I would imagine, when you take out all that other shit and are just like, and this is all the killings. These are all the killings that have happened, and this is all the nasty shit that happened, and then I'm gonna go out and kill anybody else. It's like pretty unrelenting, I would imagine.
I mean, who doesn't love a good clip show episode of your favorite TV show? This is a nice little clip show, and then you get a little bit of a mini movie.
I'll tell you who doesn't like the clip show of a TV show. Look at any rankings of your favorite TV show.
Except for, well, that was not a TV show. I was gonna say, but Silent Night, Deadly Night 2 is up there on this list.
I know. Listen, the best clip shows. Community, I think, has one of the best clip shows because it's a clip show of episodes that didn't exist. Like they just filmed fake episodes for them to throw back to.
Number 2, Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5, The Toy Maker. When Christmas toys begin killing people in a small town, all eyes are on the toy maker, Joe Petto, played by Mickey Rooney, and his odd son, Pino.
Merry Christmas!
I need to hear what Jackie thought of the toy maker.
Well, I have a quote. I have a quote from Jackie's co-host.
Okay, amazing.
Who when she informed me that she was going to actually have to back out of tonight's recording due to some scheduling issues, I said, "All right, well, I'm telling you that Toy Maker came in second place because it was her bottom. It was her least favorite." And I said, "I need a quote from you," and she said, "I think Mother Superior put it best. When we do something naughty, we're always caught. And then we are punished, and that punishment is good. And it seems like a lot of the voters have done something very naughty."
Wait, you're telling me
this was my number one. This was my number one.
It put it in number 2. If she didn't, if she didn't vote, it would be number 1. Or like if she didn't put it at the bottom, it would be number 1. Is that what you were saying?
There's a very good chance.
Jeez,
Jackie also though didn't do help on this. Jackie, where did you put this one as well?
This was ranked number 5 out of 6 for me.
Okay. All right. So you loved it.
Yes. Kyle, us both putting this at number 1 helped bring this up to number 2.
Well, Matt had texted me. So after I submitted my rankings, Matt had texted me and said, I think that only a few people had put in their rankings at that point. But apparently my list kind of caused some chaos.
It did.
And I was saying that, because he had said that
you are a chaos factor, dude. You are low key a chaos factor.
Yeah, because
one of my favorite things about you.
Spoiler alert, because you also put Initiation as your bottom, as your absolute least favorite. And Initiation was like in the three slot, I want to say, and this was in the number 1 slot, and you just like tanked both of them.
Okay. Listen, maybe it's not chaos. Maybe it's reality. Maybe it's a reality check for us.
Well, what I had said, and apparently, so Matt and I we were texting back and forth, and I had said about part 5, I said, here's the thing about part 5. I said, I feel like part 5 was a failed Puppet Master script that somebody else picked up, slapped Christmas on it, and said, we can put this into the franchise. Which, of course, Matt said, you're selling it to me. Like, you're not, this is not deterring me from part 5.
This is the only one I watch every single year. Like, I always watch this one. I
knew it.
And I think it's because here's the thing with part 5, The Toy Maker, right? Like, it's just so fun. Like, if you take it out of your mindset that this is part of the franchise where the first film is, it's just like, why aren't there more Christmas horror movies that involve toys killing parents? Because like anytime that these toys come to life and start killing the parents, I'm having a great time. When that like Santa ball shoots its arms out, when that little like centipede creature is going through a mouth and out an eye socket, I'm having the time of my life. And a film that is willing to have such a dumb twist as your protagonist turned villain is the son of the toy maker whose name happens to be Pinocchio. like
Yeah,
so
I did find the Joe Petto
Joe
and
Petto.
Pinocchio clever. No, I didn't find it clever. I'm trying to be nice. I did.
It's so bad. It's delightful and
Was
it's
it too
terrible.
horny
physically
for
hurt
you? Was it
myself
too horny?
rolling my
Is
eyes.
it?
Well, it's definitely too horny for Scott because that is why Scott dropped this one pretty low as well. Scott said on the episode that we did about this that apparently he has some problem with a robot puppet that thinks that someone's his mom, but also wants to make love with his mom to be too much. I think that it's fine.
I think it's just enough.
It's-
I think that also, if did you watch them in order, Jackie? Just
Yes.
curiosity. Yeah, I do
did.
think that like it does get a little gets a little sweaty, and it's not even like sweaty is not even the right word. Well, it is for this, but it doesn't. It doesn't. I don't know. When you watch it standalone, I think that it has some sort of like excitement to it, but when you watch it as the 5th installment of this series that has gone off the rails 2 movies prior, I mean really 3 movies prior, like I mean
Yeah.
like when you watch it and it's just like we're never going to get back on track, are we? It's exhausting. It's
It
exhausting.
is. It's
Um,
but I
I
guess
love the
here's-
Mickey Rooney of it. The Mickey Rooney of it all is like a chef's kiss. Like the
Well-
fact that he was picketing and like very
Yes.
vocal about like the first movie being an absolute atrocity, and then money wins, even if it's $50 a day or whatever he got paid. Money wins, and it's kind of crazy. It is this beautiful full circle moment for me.
I think what it comes down to for me with this particular movie and why I love it so much is like you're right, like is it a little icky, is it a little sweaty, like it's all of those things, right?
Yeah.
I'm not going to pretend that it's not those things. But like if I'm having people over for a movie night or whatever and we're like let's do Christmas horror, I think you put this on standalone along with a movie like Elves or like Feeder's 2 Sleigh Bells. Like it's just that bad enough to scratch an itch, and it's interesting enough that it holds your attention because you're just like, where the fuck is this movie going? Like you're like so like unsure of what's happening. And I
do not think that Jackie agrees with any of what you're saying, Matt.
Hear me out.
don't.
Hold on. Let me stick my landing just a little bit.
Okay.
My
all
point
right, I
being that
apologize.
this is so outrageously fantastical that I think it fits in with those other like so outrageously fantastical films where like I would never invite friends over for a movie night and be like, let's watch the original Black Christmas and sleep Silent Night, Deadly Night, because like those are like so heavy and grounded in reality that they're a bummer, where this is so outrageous that it, even if it is sweaty and gross and all that, it feels lighthearted because like none of these are real people.
That's fair. There is not a person in this movie.
I think I have to agree with things that you have both touched on. See, realize that I watch these movies in order in 3 days. I watch 2 a day, back to back to back to back to back.
Oof.
I think that maybe if I had just randomly put on part 5, I might feel differently about it.
Yeah.
But the fact that like this is literally like part 5, it's day 3. It's day 3 of watching all of these movies, and I'm almost done. And what the hell did I just watch?
Yeah.
Maybe if it was just kind of like another random movie that I put on, I might find that weird charm in it that everyone else obviously has found.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could just be guilty of it was on day 3 of nothing but Silent Night, Deadly Nights for me.
No, that can go a long way. It took me a long time to finally see this movie.
It's so wacky.
Because for some reason, I don't know if the rest of you had this, but like me as a child was absolutely psychotic. Even though I was in like middle school when I started watching horror movies, I had to watch franchises in order of release. So like I didn't see Sleepaway Camp until college because my Blockbuster only had 2 and 3 on the shelf. And I was like, well, I can't possibly. Like, like I have to start at part 1. And it wasn't until a friend like lent me his DVD of the trilogy that I was like, oh, at last I can finally watch these. My Blockbuster had the first Silent Night, Deadly Night, and 5, and nothing else. So I just kept renting the first one and being like, one day I'm going to rent this 5th one. So like,
I just
feel
see
like there was a buildup. I like,
little Matt Kelly that refused to call them movies and insisted on calling them films, no
yes,
matter what they were.
exactly. Listen, and
Films, the
also like,
cinema. Going to the cinema.
can we also agree? I think we can all agree on this. If this wasn't a
Yeah.
ranking of the movies, but the box art, this would be pretty high up there on the box art, right? Like this is comparatively like little kids surrounded by a bunch of evil toys. That's a good box art.
You're right. I mean, I'm sorry. You brought up a good point. There's not a lot of killer Christmas toy films. Like
No.
there's this man, I mean, there's this and A Nightmare Before Christmas are the immediate ones that come to mind, and I can't like, without
I
researching,
guess
I
an
can't
element
think
of
of that many.
Krampus. Elements of Krampus, but they're like demonic toys from hell. Like it's
And they're
slightly
not all
different.
toys either. We're
Yeah.
talking like cookie. We're talking like elements of Christmas becoming
Yeah.
demonic.
Yeah.
Not so there is a moment of that, but
And also,
that's
again, look, let's just say it. I love the demonic toys in the Puppet Master movie, so of course I'm gonna love this. Jackie's right.
no,
I
you're
love
fucking
this
right. Now
because I
I
love
thought there was
the
credibility.
I love tiny killers, and that's
Yeah.
what this has plenty
Yeah.
of.
It's got
All
it does
right.
have plenty of tiny killers. And yeah, and it is. And but while also being pretty horny and Mickey
Yeah.
Rooney. I
I
just
I love Demonic Toys. It was a very good movie. I'm with you on that. I think for me, it was the ending of this movie that tanked it for me. Like
Yeah, no,
I don't
listen, that's a bridge too
yeah,
far. Like it's
it really was. All the
I laugh at
horniness
the
in the beginning,
reveal.
I'm here for it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it. I got to see boobs.
yeah.
I was
Yeah.
happy. I was in my zone.
Right.
And then we get to the ending and it just that's where it got icky for me and I checked out.
Yeah.
Listen, I will make a Jackie re-edit where he reveals himself to be a robotic dummy, and then immediately the guy shows up with the baseball bat and kills him, and I'll just cut out that like 10 minutes that's really cringy.
Yeah.
5 out
All
of
right.
5. Perfect.
All right, and you can
Absolutely.
double it for me.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
We get extended weird puppet cut.
It's the opposite. Yes.
So this extended cut, they just played the scene twice. Okay.
Yeah. Weird.
Um,
I don't remember
Really
slow-mo
weird.
in that part, but there's so much slow-mo.
Number 1, Silent Night, Deadly Night. This 1984 film caused a huge stir and protests for its tale of Billy, a young boy orphaned when a man dressed as Santa Claus kills his parents in front of him. Years later, he has a psychotic break when dressed as Santa for a local store and begins punishing anyone that he deems naughty.
I can't believe how close Toymaker was to making it number
Oh my
one.
God,
though.
it was
That's
so
crazy
close.
to me.
Okay, so again, like keep in mind it's all based on math. It's all that stuff. So the numbers came down to Silent Night, Deadly Night, the original, having 27 points, and Silent Night, Deadly Night Part 5 having 25. It was a 2-point difference.
That's crazy.
Like,
That's crazy.
but yeah, I mean, I ain't mad about this being number 1. This is a movie that I think I've bounced back and forth on my feelings over the entirety of my life. Like when I rented this in middle school, this was the coolest movie I've ever seen in my life at that point. I couldn't believe how weird it was. The way that I bought my first copy of this on VHS was at a random church yard sale. Like I was I was going to a friend's house.
Love it.
I happened to
love
see that a local church in the area was having a yard sale, and I was like, I've got a couple dollars in my pocket. Let me see what they got. And some dude was selling this VHS tape for $5. And I was like, you, sir, have a deal. And I
Dude.
watched it a ton. And then I think I just started to be grossed out by it. Like, I know that I've said that I find the Black Christmas from 74 to be like the classier Christmas slasher movie. And I still stand by that, even though there's some filthy language in that movie. I mean, I think it's literally the comparison of like John Carpenter's Halloween to the first Friday the 13th movie. This one's just sleazier in that like extra exploitation kind of way. And there was a long period of time where the exploitation of it all really bugged me.
Yeah.
And now I think I'm just in the middle where I'm like, yeah, but it's so beautifully shot at times. Like there's like interesting camera shots, the close-ups of like the animatronic figures as things are happening is like weirdly unsettling and well like
Well,
it's
think
a
about
it's a
how
trashy
well it
movie
worked in the
that's done well.
Funhouse. Like, it works so well
Yes.
in the Funhouse, and then you apply it to Christmas, where there's supposed to be this more cheery, like atmosphere of it all, and it does work. I mean, you're right; it does work really well.
And then
But there are,
also like not for nothing. And again, I'm going to reference a movie I love. This movie takes a real It's a Wonderful Life journey to get to the point. Like you're
Mm,
like like for those of you who haven't seen It's a Wonderful Life, you probably think it's a movie about a guy who tries to unalive himself and then an angel comes and saves him and shows him like what the world would be like if he wasn't alive. And you'd be correct, but there's an hour of the movie that's just showing you his entire life up until that point. And that also applies to Silent Night, Deadly Night, where you think that it's a
yeah,
movie about a kid who becomes a Santa Claus and kills people. But for 45 minutes, we have to follow every horrible, abusive, traumatic thing that has happened from the time he was 8 until the Santa thing
yeah,
happens. And that can be like a punishing part of this watch every time for me. Like sometimes I'll just skip right to like, all right, let's get to him working the toy store and like get
yeah.
because like I don't need to watch the nuns abusing him and beating him and like there's just so much heavy exploitation stuff in the front that always bums me out.
Yeah.
And Toy Master was good enough or Toy Maker was good enough to put all that stuff in the back end. Like,
In the back end, Matthew. Jesus. uh, I mean, yeah. I don't know. I have a couple thoughts. I was trying to
go
do a
for
little
it.
bit of research before you, Jackie. You go. I have like two things I'm trying to figure out. So.
It's what this was a fun journey to go on, but these are not like the Christmas horror movies I ever really reach for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's perfectly fine. It had been a while since I'd seen the original. I think I'd watched it maybe a couple years ago. I don't know. Again, it's perfectly fine. It's not one that I'm like, 'tis the season for Creepmas and I got to put this one on.
Yeah.
I think I'll probably be good for a couple of years before I need to watch it again.
Yeah.
But it goes without saying that although how I feel about the movie, I will always put this movie on the list if we're ever going to rank, which we did on an episode, ranking kills in Christmas movies. Linnea Quigley getting antlered has always been one of my favorite kills. And I actually had the pleasure of telling her in person that was one of my favorite kills, and she was quite excited.
Yeah.
Because that is just it's again boobs, so A plus. But I don't know. To me, that was just a very fun use of okay, here comes how has Santa killed people so far? It's like he's slicing people up and he's trying to strangle people, and what are we gonna do here? And oh yeah, we're gonna utilize our set and we're gonna stab her with some
Our
antlers.
set? Absolutely. I do feel like they had chose boobs over kill first, so they had to figure out what
Yeah.
set to
Mhm.
expose her upon, and I do think that it is a masterful kill. That I mean, I guess I'm not going to say that.
No, but I'll
Maybe
even
in
say
one of
that
these
that's
movies they
another.
might have referenced it once.
Yeah.
In one of these other
Mhm.
ranked movies they might have referenced it. But
Mhm.
I do think that this one is so what somebody had made a Christmas ornament of like a bust of Quigley on the antlers, and I can't remember. There was like a sculptor who made like a very like limited number of these Christmas ornaments that it was just incredible.
But
But
even
the
again,
movie
I'm
is
going to go back to what I said. I think that even that kill, beautifully shot, great use of
yeah.
shadow.
Mhm.
Like there's
There's so many ways
there.
that kill could have been shot incorrectly. Like there's
Yes,
so many
that's what
ways
I
that
mean. Like
kill could have been
like
bullshit.
it's a schlocky movie, but in the hands of the wrong director, there's a world where this could be 10 times schlockier than it actually ended up being.
I agree.
Mm.
I have an old DVD that is like the or the whatever the director's the unrated cut, however they did it, but they added a bunch of clips that they had found, and
Terrible.
the transfer is trash.
It's so bad.
So it's been a long time. I was just looking on my letterbox. I watched it once in 2016 and then once in 2022, which I was more recent than I had remembered. And again, after I didn't watch it before we had chatted tonight, because I felt like I had a good understanding of the movie. But I might throw, and I feel like what Jackie is saying is right. Like it's not like an every Christmas movie for me for
No.
sure. Like there's a lot of other Christmas horror and just other Christmas stuff that I want to be watching. That's not that. Matt, I know you've talked quite often about how early on in the season that you watch it just to kind of get it out of the way,
Yeah. And that's even if I decide to do it at all.
at all. Right.
Like it's
After
not
after this series, are there any that you would put in your rotation, you think, besides 1 and 5? Is there anything that kind of like tickled your fancy more this time around?
No.
No.
No. I mean, I think Jackie may have convinced me that I will replace watching the original with just watching part 2 because you remove a lot of the stuff in the front that I don't like
Mhm.
and you just get like a kill collage of all the highlights of the first movie and then you get some goofy shit at the end.
Yeah.
Like-
Yeah. That's a good point. It's a very good point. Yeah, it's hard not to like that. It's hard not to appreciate that first movie for a lot of reasons.
Let me ask this as our closing question. What is our overall opinion of Christmas horror? Because I think I'm starting to fall into this category that I describe with werewolf movies, right? I will watch almost any werewolf movie because when a werewolf movie is done right, it's one of my favorite types of films. But I think that there's more failures than successes in general there. And I feel like I could count on a singular hand the amount of Christmas horror movies that I genuinely love. And then I think that there's just a lot that I sort of tolerate.
I feel that actually Silent Night, the remake, the 2012 remake, is a really perfect example of this, where while I enjoyed watching the movie and actually I mean, well, no, I enjoyed it. I think I ranked it pretty center. I could appreciate it and understand it. I think that a lot of other people's view of Christmas, if it's put into a horror movie, means that they have, I don't know, the approach to Christmas horror has a lot of cynicism to it.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, and I think that sometimes it relies too heavily on that. I think some of the best Christmas horror movies don't necessarily rely on the cynicism of it, or so strongly on the cynicism of it. I mean, listen, I like Black Christmas is a Christmas horror movie, but like, what is it about? You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
Krampus does, but I mean, it's also relying on like tropes of like familial like issues and like, I mean, that could be fucking Christmas with the Clumps for all I care. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's like, I like it because it's exciting and there's a lot of fun effects, but the basis of it is almost too over the top. I think
that's
Christmas,
why Gremlins becomes so perfect is that it still feels like it has a love for Christmas,
I
even with
think
all the chaos that's happening
I
around it.
think that that's the thing for me is that I do have an appreciation for Christmas in a lot of ways. Like I really do love the season, and I think there's plenty of horror movies that don't treat it with a lot of love, which again is fine. I understand that
fine.
it's not for everybody, and like that is also sort of like an easy in for a lot of things. But for me, I love a holiday horror that has an appreciation of or an understanding of the complications of like I mean if we can dig into some of that, that's cool. But like also like I just both things can exist. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like both I
Well,
like Christmas as a setting is also just a lot of fun that I
It
don't
is.
need like the Christmas jabs as much as I need the snow and the lights and the
Well,
the
that's why I
gathering
think
of people.
that's why I think the original Black Christmas is so fascinating to me because that is I mean, that is like 75, or I would even say 95% horror movie, 5% Christmas movie.
Totally.
But the
Yeah.
elements of Christmas, it's not shocking that that guy made A Christmas Story a couple years later,
Mhm.
because like it feels Christmas. Like if you take all the kills out, like the carolers and the snowy setting and the Christmas lights, and like it feels like an authentic 70s Christmas movie that just happens to have these terrible things happening behind the scenes. That's why I find that one so like unique to watch, and why it's like my perfect midnight on October 31st, pop that on and kind of like shift into Christmas mood, because it is definitively a slasher horror movie, but it's got so much Christmas there that it like gets me excited, just like hearing a children's choir singing carols and seeing the lights, and I'm just like, oh, it's coming. Like,
Yeah.
And Jackie, send us home. What is your feelings on the Christmas horror franchise or genre?
I don't know. I guess for me, Halloween season has always been my favorite, and there was a
Yeah.
very long period of time where I despised Christmas. I'm a child of divorce, and a lot of times Christmas for me was just driving around, sometimes Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware all in one day, because you got to visit this person, you got to visit this
Yeah.
person, you got to visit. Like, Christmas has always been a very frantic time
Yeah.
Bit
where
of a
it's just
chore
more
at
about
that point.
obligation of seeing people as opposed to celebrating. It's only been in the last probably like 5 or 6 years that like I actually can enjoy the holiday for what it is, and things like that. So starting at a young age when all of the craziness was happening, I think I was just mostly excited because I liked Halloween, I liked horror movies, and the fact that I could have that bleed into Christmas movies, no pun intended, but like the fact that I could merge, yeah, it's Christmassy, so like I'm celebrating the season, but it's still my brand of Christmas, because again, I was the very cynical, I don't like Christmas, this is all stupid kind of thing. So I really enjoyed it then, just because I get those elements of what I like into something that I have to tolerate. Now, I would say, like I said, the past probably 5 or 6 years now, I really do enjoy the season. I like to do the celebrating, the decorating, the music, the whole nine. Now, I just love the blend of everything from like, you know, Violent Night and Fat Man for when I
Yeah.
want those like serious, bloody Santa movies. The absolutely ridiculous. A couple years ago, we watched Santa Jaws, which was so ridiculous, but I had so much fun watching it.
Oh
Two
my
things
God.
like, Nightmare Before Christmas, and the more classic, Christmas horror movies. Like now I enjoy them all at this point.
Yeah.
And again, like I like that, yeah, there's the really bad Santa Sleigh. Santa Sleigh is terrible, but it's also super fun. Like it's ridiculous and it's fun. And at this point I kind of just appreciate all of it. And I'll take it all.
Love it. Love it. All right. Well, this is Matt and Kyle from Horror Movie Night and Jackie from the Jersey Ghouls. We have given you your definitive
And
Silent
Clint
Night.
Howard.
And Clint Howard.
Oh, yes,
We've
please.
given
Thank you,
you
sir.
our definitive Silent Night, Deadly Night rankings. And we are telling you to go to geekscapegives.com and make a donation to the Big Brothers, Big Sisters. They do a great thing out there helping out coastal and northern New Jersey. And we will be back. Well, we're not going to be back anytime soon, but just hang out on the stream, because there's tons of great things coming up, including some role-playing games. There's going to be some music trivia. There's going to be some recaps of things that have happened over the last year in pop culture, and a bunch of other fun stuff. So I hope you all enjoy.